We've talked about the 8 Passengers family channel a lot in the past, and how this family was ruined by what some are calling a cult-like self-help group. It honestly is so sad to see what has happened here, and to now hear from one of the kids in this family about what it's been like not only growing up online as part of a family channel, but to also hear about what it was like being a part of this group and how it tore the family apart. So Sherry Frankie, the daughter of parents Ruby and Kevin, has come out to speak out about the Connections group her mom is a part of. And let me just say allegedly, because she doesn't exactly name the group Connections, she's referencing it as a self-help group in this entire interview that she did. Now, Ruby is still part of this group to this day, and it's unclear if Kevin still is. It's also unclear if Ruby and Kevin are still together, as there were rumors going around last year that the two of them might have split apart. Now, like I said, Sherry didn't name what group specifically her family was a part of, but the only one I know Ruby has been a part of is one called Connections, and she has become the face of this group alongside a woman named Jody. The two of them, as I've talked about with you guys before, post videos on YouTube giving advice to parents about how to live in truth. They also have a Facebook group and a website where you can pay for one-on-one sessions and group trips with them. People have found their beliefs extreme and feel like their advice only drives families apart with the way that they have such high expectations for others, including children, and anything done outside of these principles of truth that they believe in are seen as bad behavior, disrespect, selfishness. It's a lot that they expect from others, and Ruby has not been shy about admitting that truth comes before her kids. And if her kids are not living in truth, then they don't really love her unconditionally, and she doesn't need anyone who doesn't love her in her life.
Well, Jody, the only way that you can do that is if you are loving principles more. And I think that's a very difficult thing for many people today to say, I love principles more than my child.
Yikes.
That's a really, and that is the truth.
That is the truth.
So Jody and I have each shared an example from our own lives of what real love looks like, which isn't what the world thinks is love. They'd push back and say, whoa, that's mean. You're not going to be loved. Your children are going to kick you out of their lives. So when people say, well, if you do that, then your child's not going to trust you. If you do that, then your child's not going to love you. Well, exactly. I'm just revealing that my child is refusing to love unconditionally. I don't want anyone in my life who's not going to be loving. So if my child will only love me if I give them what they want, then that's not really love.
So this takes a very strong soul, because most of us are not even willing to consider not having our children in our lives. And I hope that you'll reconsider.
Which, this is just something people found so extreme and so harsh. You can totally love someone and not always see eye to eye with them sometimes. But to shut out a child because they aren't believing the same ways of life as you, and you're interpreting that as them being selfish and not loving you unconditionally, it's just ridiculous. Someone can love you and not believe the same thing as you. But it's truly sad to see how this group has shifted her mindset, because she wasn't always like this and never wanted things like this to come in between her family. Years ago in a vlog, I've showed you guys this before, but she said she would never want her family to be torn apart for believing different things.
I just don't want to tear a relationship apart over it. I've seen members of families stop talking to each other for decades because they didn't agree on a value. And I just think that's so sad, and I don't ever want that to happen in my house. I want my children to always feel comfortable coming to me. If they grow up believing something different, I still want them to come to the dinner table, and I still want to, let's just talk. Let's just have a mother-son relationship or a mother-daughter relationship, whatever that looks like for you.
Now, her daughter Sherry has opened up before about not supporting Connections. She had previously called the group out by name on Instagram in a story where she said that she was no longer speaking to her immediate family. So I'm just going to assume she's still talking about Connections when she went on this podcast. The podcast was called Into the Light, and she detailed her experience leaving the group as well as what it was like in the group, and says that it made her a very judgmental person and she was super critical about everything. And when her parents and siblings got into this group, she was in the 10th grade. And it wasn't until she moved away for college that she actually started to question things that were being taught to her.
Like, some things within my family were happening that I started to question, like, I don't know if this is okay. Like, I don't know if God would actually support this. Like, is this really the gospel? And so for a long time, for like 7 months of my freshman year in college, I was just debating. I was like, I don't know what to believe. Like, I believe the gospel is true, but I don't know exactly what that gospel is.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know where to draw the line between
Life coach and
like
gospel.
life coaching and the gospel.
She ended up saying she ultimately decided the coaching was too extreme, but she was really battling what it would be like going against her parents' beliefs.
At that point, I was very convinced, like, this is too extreme. I need to do something, change something, but I wasn't sure how. Because, you know, I want to honor my family. We're supposed to honor our parents, and I felt that to disagree with them was sinful, and that God would be mad at me too if I did that.
She said for a while she wanted to still be included in the family, so she kind of just went along with it whenever she would visit her parents. She said she would slip into the lingo that they would use, but then when she would leave, she would just not feel great and she just couldn't pretend anymore.
Whenever I'd go home, you know, it was like, oh, we use this language, we talk about things like this. And then I noticed, like, when I would leave my family, like, I would just feel like spiritually drained. Like, I just wouldn't feel great.
Yeah.
I would like overhear conversations and just like find myself internally like, this isn't right, like this isn't okay. And so it got to the point where I was like, I can't keep pretending like everything's fine.
Now, nobody on Ruby's side of the family supports connections either. Her sisters and brother have come out to speak negatively about the group and blames them for tearing Ruby away from them. But Sherry has luckily been able to reunite with them, and on the podcast, she spoke about how she's found herself a family that claims her as their daughter and how she's been able to find people to really guide her through all of this and be there for her since she isn't talking to her parents anymore.
For me, looking back, like, God placed some people in my life, like really good mentors, that were able to help me through it. Really good bishops have been amazing. I've been able to reconnect with like a family that I was friends with in high school, and they've kind of taken me in as their own daughter. And so like I had like, I felt like I had them to go to. It was hard to like not have my own family.
Yeah.
And then to hear other people talking about their trials and say, well, my parents were my rock. Like, they were there for me. And I was like, man.
Wouldn't it be nice?
Yeah.
She does slightly mention that something did happen in her family that led her to be able to exit out of all of this in as little drama as possible, which she didn't think was actually going to happen. She thought it was going to be a very dramatic thing when she was leaving.
I don't think it was like I woke up one day and decided today is the day.
Yeah.
But a lot of stuff happened in our family that almost kind of like did it for me,
Oh, interesting.
which was nice that like I didn't have to have, you know, the conversation of like, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Things just kind of happened that just like slowly kind of drifted, and so it wasn't as dramatic as I thought it was going to be, which is nice.
She then talks about how her family got involved in the group in the first place and explains that when she was in high school, her parents joined because they actually wanted to connect with each other better, but things took a turn for the extreme and ended up isolating the family from other people.
You know, when we interact with other people and we'd use the same language, like they were very confused. They were like, I don't understand what you're saying. And then as like the years progressed, this group became more extreme, and they began to equate like their curriculum and their teachings kind of with the gospel.
She basically says the group was always making her think about negative things in life, and it's still something that she's trying to unlearn, but explains how nothing really seemed to be good enough for the leaders of the self-help group, and whenever she felt like she was working on herself, she was met with them saying that she hadn't improved anything.
Look back at like a lot of the things that I prayed for at that age, and I like feel bad for myself that I was like so concerned with like, help me be clean, help me be empathetic, like I don't know what to do. And then I feel like I would work on it, and then I would go and talk with these people and they'd say, you're still not getting it. And I would just like lose my mind over like, what else am I supposed to do?
Which honestly, to me, that just sounds like, keep giving me your money. Because if you tell someone like you're fixed, they're probably not going to continue the program. But if you keep making them feel bad about themselves, they might just keep coming back because they're desperate to get better. Allegedly, maybe. But she says that she is actually in therapy now, and her therapist has been able to validate the feelings that she has had and thoughts that she's felt about all of this. And it really just is so sad to hear the struggles that she's faced being in this group, and still that she's trying to get rid of this mentality that was taught to her all these years. But it's good that she's been able to get that help and surround herself with people who do love her and are there for her. She did also open up about what it was like growing up online, and said that at first she did find it really weird that they were filming their lives as a family, but it was this understanding that it was their job and it was how they went on vacation and paid for things. But she says that as she got older, the comment section definitely got meaner, and people judged her more and more, and people basically were calling her a goody two-shoes, among other things that really hurt her, and it was unhealthy for her to be looking at those comments the way that she was. But it truly makes me sad that people judged her for being this quote-unquote perfect child. And I remember this time when 8 Passengers was still vlogging, because they're not vlogging anymore. Ruby is solely doing the Connections group. But when they were, people judged Sherry so hard for being this sister that was trying to do, you know, everything that her mom wanted, and she always did her homework, she always did her chores, like all of it. And the fact that people were like annoyed by her for doing such and made her feel some type of way, because she said she read the comments so much and it just like made her feel sad. I feel sad hearing that, because what do people expect her to do? Hearing the way Ruby is online and seeing what she has shared, if Sherry dared act it up, she probably would have been sent to a wilderness behavioral camp just like her brother. So of course she was gonna try her best to be this perfect daughter, because that I would not want to be sent to a wilderness camp. That is scary. But I'm just happy that she is in a good place right now, and that is what she had to share on this podcast. I want to know what you guys think about all of this, and the fact that Ruby only seems to be getting deeper and deeper into this group. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. I love you guys so much, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye, guys.